Let's stay with the issue of those tariffs. Marcus Noland joins us. He's Executive Vice President of the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Thank you, sir, for being with us here. We appreciate your time. This whole issue of the tariffs, can you give us a sense of what it all means? Because some people understand what's going on. Others people have a more vague idea. The way I see it, it's basically something that's decided by leaders of a country, but it's always the consumers who get hurt most.
That's about right. And if you don't understand what's going on here in Washington, you are not alone. This is the rollout of this policy, if there is a policy, has been absolutely chaotic, with announcements of tariffs and then tariffs delayed or tariffs not applied. So there's a tremendous amount of confusion. Tariffs themselves will damage the economy, both the United States economy and the economies of the targets of those tariffs, whether it's Canada, Mexico, Europe, or any place else. But the sheer confusion about what's going on is having a very damaging effect on the U.S. economy, depressing investment and undermining consumer confidence.
So hang on a minute. If I understand it then, the man who pledged to start a golden age for the United States and said that the economy is something that he will master and steer with great adeptness is actually, with his policies, behind what is basically pushing the US economy towards recession.
That is correct.
And in terms of, well, it seems nonsensical as a policy to advance with that. What do you think Trump is trying to achieve?
Trump is trying to reindustrialize the United States. He's trying to restore an imagined golden age where there are plenty of blue-collar factory jobs. The problem is the imposition of tariffs actually makes the United States a high-cost producer around the world. So, for example, if you impose 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum, you are going to make the production of automobiles in the United States completely uncompetitive. They'll have to raise their prices. Consumers will purchase cars from Europe or Asia, which means that he's then got to put a tariff on automobiles. And it will proceed in a kind of piecemeal way of putting tariffs on different products to try to compensate for the impact of previously applied tariffs.
So when Donald Trump 24 hours ago was stood at the White House trying to do a sales pitch for Tesla cars and bigging up his, for want of a better word, sidekick Elon Musk. In a sense, he's trying to create some sort of illusion that there is this kind of commerce, this business that all Americans can tap into. But in fact, what he's doing is pricing Americans out of their own market.
Absolutely right.
So again, I'm coming back to that same question. What on earth is he playing at?
He thinks that he will put the economy through temporary pain for long-term gain. That there will be temporary pains of adjustment, but eventually all those industries will move back to the United States and provide lots of high-paying, high-benefit, blue-collar factory jobs for the American public. So he thinks he's going to eventually get to a greater golden age, as you put it. The problem is there's no evidence that's going to happen. All he's doing is making the U.S. economy inefficient, and in doing so in such an arbitrary and confusing way, he's depressing business investment and he's scaring consumers. So the U.S. economy is slowing, and now half the big models show it going into recession.
My next question to you was going to be, is this going to work? You've already answered that very, very clearly. This is something that really is setting the US economy towards that recession situation. And when that happens, of course, all the people who voted for Trump, and we're getting political here, so perhaps you don't want to go there, but I'm going to ask you anyway, all those people who voted for Trump, surely they're going to actually say to themselves, well, hang on a minute, this isn't what we wanted.
I am not a political scientist, and I can't predict how people react, but I have to believe that there are millions of Americans who are now getting something that they didn't think they were voting for in November.
So in terms of what happens next for Donald Trump and for his grand plan for the US, short-term pain for long-term gain isn't going to work. He's backtracked on some of the things he said already, which again makes people doubt his credibility. Is that going to be the pattern we see? He will shout, he will make noise, he will try to push towards some kind of deal that he wants, and then pull back at the last moment.
I'm afraid not. During the first term, he was surrounded by people who had more conventional thinking, and they acted as a constraint on these impulses. Now he's surrounded by people who either share his thinking or are simply ambitious and will go along. So I think there'll be less constraint on him. I think he actually is going to impose a lot of these tariffs. And the US will then be subject to retaliation by other countries. We've already been subject to some retaliation by Canada, and the EU is promising to retaliate as well. And the net result is everyone's worse off.
Indeed, we've already heard about Europe looking to tax things such as bourbon, such as motorcycles, such as blue jeans, the kind of things that one might associate with American soft power in terms of creating a really positive image of the United States. All that set to be in some way halted. And surely one can't accept that this is going to reverse decades and decades of goodwill and good culture and good cultural exchange. However, we're at a point now where things are becoming very different on all levels.
Well, you have to be very careful. Once tariffs go on, it's very hard to get them off. So if you retaliate against the United States with this strategic objective of getting Trump to back off, and he doesn't, then you're really stuck. In the United States, we make all our own light trucks because the light truck tariff is 25%. That is the result of a dispute with the EU about frozen chicken parts back in the 1960s. Once these things get put in place, they're hard to take apart.
Marcus, you've scared me with that last remark. Marcus Noland, Executive Vice President of the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Thank you for joining us, sir, and thank you for your very frank response to the questions, which I hope have given our viewers some insight into what to expect coming next. Marcus Noland from the Peterson Institute, thank you for joining us, sir. Very much indeed.
Honor.